All right, welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Bruen, and talk about a special guest this week, none other than the son of legendary pro wrestler Crush Bruen Adams. Ladies and gentlemen, Royce Adams, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys?
Royce, thanks so much for taking the time today. This is going to be a real treat to have you here and kind of talk about your career and your father's career. Really looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, man. I'm ready. I'm happy to talk about it, man.
So, growing up with your father, a famous wrestler, how does that feel? Are you at the age where you're realizing how big of a star he is? Kind of tell us about that and how it felt, if other kids noticed that in school and that sort of thing.
It's funny because when I was a kid, I never really noticed much because when you're a kid, you don't really notice anything. All you really care about is, what toys you're playing with, and who your parents are, what's your surroundings, because you just don't know any better, right? But then I started noticing, with the whole taking my dad to the airport, to going to school, and kids come up to me, "Is your dad really Bruen Adams?" That's what really started getting me to think, I'm starting to figure something out. And I don't know what made me realize first, the fact that my dad told me that he was a wrestler, or that my mom and friends told me, or that the fact that I saw him in a video game one time and I thought, hey, that's dad.
And regardless, whether your dad was in the wrestling business or not, were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Oh, absolutely. I used to love all the stuff back then. So I started watching WCW because that was the first thing I saw as a kid. That was by the time I was born, my dad was sort of walking away from WWE. He was still with them at the time, but by the time I had a better idea what's going on, he was already with WCW. So I started watching their stuff. I remember guys like Goldberg, Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, Kevin Nash, the whole lot. And it's kind of like how it was. And yeah, so that's how I kind of became a fan. I was more a fan of a WCW because it's like I said, that's the first thing I saw.
Sure.
Yeah.
And basically growing up, at what point did you realize that your dad was more influential than others? When did you start watching like some of his footage after the fact, or when did you decide, what, this is possibly something I want to do now and I'm going to get involved myself?
Well, so about the whole, when I started seeing my dad's stuff, I started seeing it in tapes. Like by the time like I said, I started seeing things. I only saw the tapes, like mostly his WCW tapes. By the time he was with the NWO and stuff, and I even remember when he was a part of Chronic. I could remember the day he came home with that new haircut and that be like I don't know if he was clean shaven or he had like a soul patch or something, but he had like a new look at the time, and I just noticed, well, that's different but cool. Yeah.
Right.
As for the whole me wanting to do wrestling, well, a lot of kids at the time always want to be wrestlers, to tell you the truth. Like I can remember growing up, me and my friends, we would watch wrestling and then we would just set up our own wrestling stuff, like in the bedroom or in the backyard and stuff, and it was something we all wanted to do, but weren't really serious about. It was more like just play wrestling stuff, right? But later on, I was thinking, what if I actually took this seriously, and I remember confiding this with my dad. I told him about it, and obviously he was very reluctant. He was like, "Are you sure you want to do this, Royce? Because it's very tough, And he's like, "Oh, I don't know, because there's a reason why my back hurts, And he was giving me warning signs about it, and he also broke it down to me on how it really worked. Like I can remember from one time to the next, he would tell me, how it's all set up, how it really works. he was probably trying to test me and see if I was really committed to it, even though I finally knew the truth. And it took me a while, and I told him, you know what? Yes, I think I will like to do this. And he actually told me he would consider opening up a school possibly, and and having a wrestling having me involved with it. But sadly, it never came to be because I'm sure we all know what tragically happened. But
Sure.
that's one of the things he was gonna do. Like
So your father was, like a lot of the superstars back then, but even more so, just larger than life, when it comes to pro wrestling and so colorful and had some of the, in my opinion, some of the best outfits and singlets. And, some of those singlets you still wear to this day for your matches,
yep.
What does it feel like kind of, having a piece of your father with you as you're doing the same thing that he once did?
Uh, First of all, I was surprised when I realized I could actually wear the stuff because you gotta understand my dad was huge.
Yeah.
I mean I'm not I mean I'm a little bit I'm a big guy myself sort of, but I'm definitely not like freaking 320 though.
Yeah.
And with that being said, when I found his singlets the first time I could wear it, I was just shocked. So for starters, I was just surprised I could wear it in the first place, and to tell you the truth, it does feel really good to be able to wear something he wore before. It's almost like a passing of the torch kind of feel. Like I don't even know if any other second gen wrestler can say the same thing. Like could they? I'm I don't want to say I don't want to claim to be the only next gen to wear his predecessor's gear and stuff, but there's literally no one else I can think of that does the same thing. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but as far as I know, I'm probably the only guy that's doing it. So,
And it's like he's there, right there with you for the whole journey, which is fantastic. It's
oh yeah,
fantastic. Now, some wrestlers, over the years, they weren't willing to change, and that's why maybe they had short runs and you just didn't see them for too long, or But with your father, he was always able to basically flip that switch and change the look and update the look, whether it was the Nation of Domination or the Disciples of Apocalypse, or of course Kona Crush as a baby face, and then he had the face paint with Mr. Fuji when he turned heel, and of course managed by Clarence Mason with kind of more of a grunge look, for Crush, and of course Brian Adams as himself with the NWO. But it all started with Demolition, so he's had so many iconic looks over the years. Is there a favorite if you could choose one?
honestly, as a kid, my favorite was when he was in WCW as himself. Brian Adams with the NWO because that's what I grew up with. But then years later, I guess you can say my favorite now would be his Kona Crush gimmick because it's very, it's a very what's the phrase? Lighthearted. It's very like a friendly look. Compared to all the tough guys, all the grunginess that they had even by like early '90s standards, there was a handful of them had some grungy colorfulness to it. But my dad, he was like more bright, like it was just how it was, especially with the bright colored neon he had, and and that even with that god awful golden mullet of his, it was still like a very approachable look for him. So that's probably why I favor that the most.
And of course, he had his any memories of his iconic match at WrestleMania 10, Falls Count Anywhere with the Macho Man Randy Savage?
Well, thing was, I think at the time, dang, what year was that? Was that '95 or what?
94. But even after the
Yeah,
fact, if you watch,
yeah, because I do remember watching it with my dad. Like we uh we got like the collection bundle of WrestleMania from the first one to the 20th, and we watched the match, and it was pretty cool. Like my dad going out there with Mr. Fuji and knocking down Randy and doing that 10 count right there or something like that. Yeah, because that's what that was. It was like some kind of falls count anywhere match or something. And
yeah, it was Falls Count Anywhere where they did the pinfall on the outside or wherever they were, and then they had, I think it was 10 or 30 seconds to get to the ring or something like that.
yeah, that's right. I remember there would be parts in the match where my dad would be telling me about this and that. Like at one point, there was like a spot they did in the ring or something, and he kind of felt funny. And according to him, the Macho came down to him and asked, "Hey, you all right, brother?" And my dad's like, "No, no, I'm not all right." He got hurt right there, and then
Oh,
he, yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't too bad, but it kind of like stung him. I gotta look back on it and see exactly what happened because I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen it, and and then outside, he would be out. He'd be kind of outside, and then before he got eliminated, Mr. Fuji brought a bucket of water to wash his face with, and he would tell me how refreshing that was. It really woke him up right there. And then down to the very end, where he gets pinned outside, like in the backstage or whatever, and
yeah.
how Macho Man was supposed to leave him tied up and hung upside down. But the thing was, and I think I still remember this, the freaking knot that was supposed to hold him up there got undone, and my dad ended up falling right on top of his head and stuff.
Oh,
He fell down. He was just laying there, all just thinking, "God damn it, Randy, you can't tie a knot with."
right.
So yeah, so I thought that was definitely something funny.
And your dad and Randy, weren't they friends outside of the ring as well?
Yeah, they were. I can remember my dad taking me with him to the gym so he could go work out with his buddies, and we would almost always meet up with Macho Man. Like I didn't even know he was a wrestler, to be honest with you. I thought he was just a workout, like a gym buddy of his. 'Cause
Yeah.
I see him, I just see him all the time and didn't think much of it until I kind of like my dad. I saw him on TV too. I thought, oh hey, that's Randy.
Yeah.
Like crazy how that is. It's almost like a small world.
Now, other than Randy Savage, do you remember any other superstars coming by the house or you visiting with your father at that time?
Yeah. There were guys like Undertaker, or Mark Calloway. That was his best friend back then. They were like as my folks would describe it, kind of like brothers. They were just the best of friends. And it was probably because my dad would not be scared of him. Because everyone was scared of Mark Calloway. A lot of people still are scared of him to this day. But my dad, he grew up in a tough areas and stuff, so he knows how to handle scary. And I guess that's what earned him a lot of respect, and the fact that my dad was just a naturally cool dude. He's
Yeah.
one of the nicest guys. So, but he was best friends with Mark, and he was also good friends with Big Show. Paul White. I
Oh, yeah.
remember seeing, I remember seeing him come to the house too, and I would just gawk at him at how big he was. I mean, he was so tall, he damn near had to dug underneath the door frame. That's how big he was.
Right.
I look
That
up
must
at him.
be amazing because your father is such a huge guy. And then to see him come in and he kind of dwarfs your father, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I always thought my dad was the biggest, but then I see freaking Big Show coming in. It stands like at least half a head taller than him, and even Mark, he was taller than him too. I can remember we would go places. My dad's driving, and I could see, Mark is in the passenger, and his head is almost touching the ceiling. And I was thinking, wait a minute, Uncle Mark is taller than Dad. You know, Because again, I always thought my dad was the biggest. Every other kid's dad I ever meet, they're always smaller than him. I'm like, what's going on here? This ain't right? But that's how it was.
I feel like your father in some realms was kind of underrated. I feel like if you go watching those Coliseum home videos or the international tours, I mean the ovations that he would get, especially as babyface Kona Crush, unbelievable. I mean, it was like in some instances it was like Hulk Hogan was walking out. I mean, he was really getting those monster pops, and he was so over with the fans. But then on the other side of that, they respected him and they saw that in him, and that's why they kept him all those years and kept changing the look, which was great. So
Yeah.
now a personal memory for me, Crush growing up was always my favorite superstar as a kid. And when the Hasbro figure came out, I had to have it. When the Super Nintendo game came out, I had to be Crush. I mean, it was always that way. And I got the opportunity in 2005 to meet your father. And I flew from Rhode Island to Tampa, Florida to go to this convention. The main reason being Crush was one of the announced superstars. And I said, man, I think I got to make the trip. I got to go to this. So flew out there, and for whatever reason, he didn't make it. It was a 3-day convention. He was only scheduled the second and third day. Didn't make it the second day. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think he's going to be here, but he showed up that third day, and he was just unbelievable. He was everything that, you would hope for. He was such a nice guy, really took the time, and I cherish our picture, to this day. It was a special moment for me. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Oh no, I appreciate you telling me that. Yeah, no, trust me, my dad. Everyone loved him. Everyone. My dad was probably one of the nicest people you ever meet. And he may have been a tough, intimidating dude in his own right, but at the same time, he was almost like a big teddy bear in a sense. Like he was just super nice all around. On the other hand, he could also be a bit of a prankster too. Like I'm sure you heard stories of my dad doing this and that, like with ribs and stuff. The freaking voice impressions. Oh
Oh,
god.
I didn't know he did that.
Oh yeah, he used to be. In fact, he used to be on this radio years ago. You ever heard of Cow? You ever heard of Cowhead Radio?
Actually, yeah, I have heard of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he still does it today. He just does it like on a podcast or whatever. Whose name is damn, it's like Mike something. I can't remember his name on the top of my head right now. But yeah, he used to do this Cowhead Radio, and my dad would go on there, and he would do voice impressions. Usually guys like Randy Savage and you ever heard of this Asian wrestler Tiger Chung Lee?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he did voice impressions of him, and from what I heard, they're good impressions. He would get people with that. Like, oh man, dude, even Mark himself talked about this on his podcast. How him and my dad did like this prank on Lynn Denton, the guy that was running Portland at the time. Yeah, shit, that was crazy because he sounds just like Tiger. I mean, it goes. I actually do remember hearing a little bit on the radio one time. It's been so long, but I think he told a story about how he called up Chris Benoit because he had like his number at the time, and I guess Chris forgot giving it to him because that's just how it was, right? So he calls him up, he gets his voice answering machine, but decided instead he was going to use his voice as Tiger. It goes like this. I think Chris is not that great, but like, hey, Chris, it's me, Tiger. I listen, you son of a bitch. I I I heard your stories on me because of that I got fired. I thought you were my friend. I hate you, you Canadian bastard. And then he just hangs up. He doesn't. Funny thing is, a couple years later, they would meet up at a Gold's Gym or something, and they're working out. They start talking, and then Tiger comes up, and then Chris was like, "Son of a bitch, leave me a voicemail. Saying Stu's on air around 5. I'm still looking for that son of a bitch, man. When did I get my hands?" And my dad was like, "Wait a minute, that was Chris. That was me, man.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, freaking Chris. That just comes to show that his impressions were phenomenal. I mean, everyone thought he was really. Man, I was just thinking to myself, damn, Dad, you're trying to start World War III with these voices. I swear to God.
Now, your father, did he save a lot of things from his career? Like, do you have stuff now that you get to look at, or did he not really save much?
No, he did. That's actually how I got a hold of my singlet, the singlets that I wear. He had like this container full of some memorabilia. They had like his singlets, some of his old gear. Well, that's the same thing, I guess. Toys, and that mask he wore back back when he was in Demolition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little worn, but it's the same thing.
That's iconic. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Now, what are some of the organizations that you have worked for? Where did you get your training in, and what do you have coming up these days?
Well, so I got trained by several folks. The first person to train me, and I gotta give credit. It was this referee, named Frankie. Yeah, Frank Reyes. It was a retired referee. He had started up a school at some point, and that was the first person I got a hold of. I didn't have that many connections at the time, so I was mostly just looking around in my local area. Had a little bit of help, and I trained with him for a little bit, but then his school shut down, and then I got my next training with this guy named Jay Lethal. Yeah, he actually had a school just like south of where I lived, and I trained with him for a while, and he was great. You know, he was a really great trainer. He taught me everything I need to know, like what the shine is, cut off, the heat, everything. You know, it's really because of him I know a lot about stuff in the ring. Him and a few others too. You know, like I also trained with this other wrestler named Alex Porto, the Pug. You ever
Oh
heard
yeah,
of him?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I trained with. Yeah, he was one of my trainers too at one point, and he was a great dude. You know, very nice guy. You know, uh, I remember he would just tell me to do this and that, and some of the things at the time I didn't understand. Like he would tell me, "Okay, get ready for the heat, brother." I'm like, "What the hell is the heat?" You know,
Right.
he didn't explain to me the terms to me, so sometimes I would get confused, but I still did pretty good at him. But yeah, but my real trainer was, like I said, with Jay Lethal. He was the guy that helped me out with a lot of the stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And some of the different promotions that you've worked for or are currently working for.
Oh, so for the most part, I'm with Tampa Bay Pro. It's like one of the local promotions where I'm at.
Yeah.
I've been with them for years and stuff. And then I was also with Alex Porto's promotion. It was called Pro Wrestling 2.0. I don't think they were doing any shows anymore. They kind of had to shut down a little while ago. And I've been to other places too. You know, like I've also wrestled with WWN. It's another local promotion. You know, I've been outside of Florida. I've been to like places like Jamaica and Germany. I've wrestled there. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot what Jamaica's promotion is called. It's been so long. I think it was like uh I can't remember the name of the promotion. It's
So
been
you've
so
already
many
got
years.
some good experience under the belt.
Hmm.
So now, where do you want to take that wrestling career, the in ring career? Do you want to eventually go on to one of the big ones? And
Yeah. I mean that would be a really nice thing for me. You know, that is kind of like my goal right now, actually, to hopefully get noticed by the bigger leagues and stuff, and at least be given a shot like a trial match and stuff. You know, to
yeah,
work with guys to work for the same company that my dad worked under will be like the biggest win for me. You know, but I understand though that the business is a bit dubious or it's weird. It's a weird business to say the least. It's like they're very particular who they choose and stuff because sometimes you can't. It's not the fact that you're the most strongest or talented. It's also what they can do with you. You know, because there have been times where they've had guys that are like jacked to the gills, like Ryback. They had him for a while, but then they let him go because I guess I wasn't sure why they let him go, either because he didn't have the personality or some other backstage issue. But that's a really good example, though. You could be, like I said, jacked to the you mean like the most strongest looking specimen, but not make it because he just didn't have the overall look for them. It was just you know
yeah.
how it is.
I feel like nowadays there are a lot of smaller wrestlers in general,
Mm-hmm.
and even like you said, Ryback around that era, there was Ezekiel Jackson, there was Mason Ryan, a lot of these big guys, and since the three of them have kind of gone on, you don't really see as many really big superstars like that anymore.
And then I mean, this is a different era we're living in. You know, I feel like nowadays it's less about you know big guys throwing around big guys and more about smaller guys doing a lot of acrobatic stuff. I mean, not to say that's wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you have to have a good mix. You have to have a good solid mix. Otherwise, everything in the match these days is just rinse and repeat. And I see that all the time in the indies and stuff. Like this other promotion I was down at. I think it's called Real Pro. It's in the state of Florida, and a lot of the guys in there, a lot of them do acrobatic stuff. It's almost the same thing every time. And I was thinking, geez, I'm have to bring this back old school,
Yeah.
because it's what I mean. Again, nothing wrong with the acrobat stuff. It's just I don't know, it gets tiring just seeing acrobats all the time. It's almost like you're at a circus in a sense.
I mean, it's good to have a mix. Got to have some room for the big guys too.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's always been that way. A little bit of everything. Now, recently, your father was released in figure form for the Big Rubber Guys. with, of course, the major crew over there with Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, and great to see a brand new figure of your father all these years later. What was that experience like releasing that?
Well, okay. Truth is, a lot of times, some of them are a little. I mean, it's good. It's nice to see that people are making figures of my dad and stuff. It's just nice to see that they're still keeping his memory alive and stuff. And in fact, I'm looking forward to seeing the great things with the Legends deal. With the WWE and stuff. Like,
Oh,
yeah, because I don't know if you saw the news, but a while ago, WWE reached a member of their like media group. They reached out to me and asked if me and my folks can sign the Legends deal on my dad's behalf.
oh yeah.
And yeah, so that's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that because
Wow. Did they mention anything specifically? Like maybe we could see him in a video game or.
yeah, I remember the guy. I asked the guy, so what exactly is my dad going to be featured in? And the way he puts it, everything. I'm like, everything, everything, games, merch, toys, the whole lot. I was like, all right, that's all right. And of
That's
course, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
oh,
And
that's fine.
of course, we had to like get confirmation. Like we didn't just sign the deal right away. My mom had to reach out to other folks, like because the deal was it's not just my dad. It was demolition as a whole. They they're all part of the same deal. So my mom had to reach out to Barry Darso's wife, and she confirmed on her end that her husband as well as Bill 80, they all received the same kind of deal, and that's what gave us the go ahead to sign the deal because we weren't just going to sign some random deal without knowing too many details first. That's just that's just that, I mean yeah
Yeah,
we had to make sure we weren't falling into some kind of weird business
sure.
trick. So
Make sure it's all up and up. Yeah.
exactly,
Now,
exactly.
do you think we'll ever see your father in the WWE Hall of Fame? And if so, sometime down the road, what would that mean for you and your family?
Well, it would be really first of all, it'd be wonderful, because at least now I don't know. No, sorry, I'm just gonna start over that. It'll mean a whole lot to me and my folks, especially because now my dad's memory will definitely live on like forever, because I mean I understand, like how weird it is trying to get into the Hall of Fame in the first place. It's just because there's so many people that already should be in there that are not. Like I don't know. I remember this year they put in who was that tag team that got put in this year? Was it Natural Disaster?
Natural
That's what it was.
disasters. Yeah.
Yeah, with Earthquake and Typhoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Those guys deserve it for sure. Especially the members and. But to be able to see my dad though in the Hall of Fame in any way, shape, or form, whether he's a singles wrestler or a tag team, it would still mean like a whole lot. Plus, I feel like it'll make it easier on me to try to keep the whole memory thing alive because that's part of the reason why I wrestle is to maintain his memory and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's some of your favorite merchandise of your father over the years?
Hmm. Well, I do remember there was like this one. It was like I think it was like a GI Joe kind of figure where he had like a battle vest, helmet, and a rifle. Almost, yeah, it looked like it was like a collaboration between WCW and GI Joe. Or no, that was probably with WWE actually. Yeah, this was back when he was still with WWE at the time, and he
Yeah,
was
I
in
think
the
that was the WWF Stomp series.
yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what that was. Yeah, I always enjoyed playing with the toys and stuff, and that was probably like my favorite growing up because it just strikes close to home. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, you've watched all the matches over the years. If you could pick three, what would the top three matches, in your opinion, of your father be that you've witnessed?
Uh, let's see, man. That's a tough one right there. I would have to say it would be his matches between him and Shawn Michaels. That's you know,
Yep.
Like I think there's at least two of them. You know, there's one of them was actually I think they're both for the Intercontinental Championship. You know, one ends with a ring out, and then the second one ends with him being intercepted with by Doink. You know, the guy he was feuding with.
Yeah,
So I guess those two are good, and then I think his match with Doink the Clown was also a good one too. You know, I know there's a lot of other matches out there, but I gotta like it's been like so long since I've seen some of these matches though, because it's just just been so busy with other stuff. Yeah.
sure. Now, what was your favorite look out of all the looks that your father had over the years?
I believe that would be his Kona Crush look. Well, actually, no. Looks wise, I kind of did like the Disciples of Apocalypse, the one where he's all like dressed up like a biker and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Because it gave him like a more tough guy look. You know, it made him look like he was like part of a biker crew. You know, and I think I have a feeling it may have been inspired by you know by Undertaker because he's a lover of bikes too. So I figured that the idea kind of came from him. So
yeah. What has your experience been thus far meeting the fans? Have you had any fan interactions, and why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
oh yeah, I've got some good reception from the fans. You know, in fact, what's funny is well they it's like they kind of like me at first and stuff. They already like who I am in the ring. I mean, nowadays I'm a heel, so I kind of get like the whole negative feedback now. But for the most part, it's been good. And then once I tell them who my dad was, that's like, oh, the reception is even greater. They're like, oh my god, you're his son? No way, you know. I like it's funny too because I don't go out and tell everyone this all the time who my dad was because I mean I do take great pleasure in being, the son of Crush, but at the same time, I'm kind of trying to do like, kind of like have my own like identity of sorts, you know.
Sure.
So, although granted, it is kind of like I am kind of carrying on the name in a sense because I do go out wrestling as Royce Crush Adams or the Kona Crush, you know. So I carry the name, but at the same time, I don't go out there telling people who my dad is, and that could lead to like some funny situations, like I could be like in a freaking dressing room, and when someone recognizes me, hey, ain't your dad Brian Adams? Everyone in the room just starts to like turning around, like, no way, like freaking why they're putting on their boots and stuff. They stop and they're like, what? Why did you tell me that, man? And I'm like, never asked, never asked.
That's awesome. Now we have a fan question here as well.
Yeah.
If you could pick a couple dream matches, maybe your father against somebody in the current era or in recent years, who would that be? Who would be a couple dream matches for Kona Crush?
That's good. Yeah, that's a good question. Hmm. Anyone like any wrestler in the modern day, you say, right?
Yeah, anybody.
All right. Well, I'm trying to think real quick. I can imagine what it would have been like if my dad had worked Roman Reigns. That would have been pretty good.
That would be a good one, actually.
So yeah,
Awesome.
there'll be that one, and I don't know if my dad ever worked The Rock either. I mean, I'm sure he has before, at least once, but I'll have to I'll have to look into it a bit. But that would also be a pretty good match, like modern day Rock, where he's all more, jacked and chiseled versus, old school Brian Adams, and yeah, that would be a good match actually.
And is there anything that you learned about your father as you got older that you didn't know until, recent years? And you're like, wow, that's, just was there ever something new that you learned about your father later on in life?
Yeah, like how much of a prankster he was, man. Like, because as a kid, I never really thought much of my dad being too much of a jokester because he always, he always seemed like he was like lighthearted, but he also kind of had a serious vibe at the same time. That being said, you can imagine my surprise that he used to be a real ripper back in the day. Like there'll be stories that Undertaker would tell me. He would tell me how him and my dad were driving up to a toll booth in the dead of night, and they were both just half asleep at this point. Taker's driving, my dad's passenger seat, And when they go to the toll booth, the passenger is supposed to give the driver the money to give to the toll guy. So they go up to the toll booth, take her, Mark holds out his hand. My dad, half asleep, just puts some coins in his hand, gives it to the toll guy. The bar does not lift, and Mark was like, "Hey, what's going on here? What's going on?" And then the toll guy just looks, "Dude, look how much you gave me." Looks down at his hand. He only has 5 pennies in his hand, and he looks at my dad. He's like, "Brian, are you kidding me?" And my dad was so tired. He just does a little chuckle. He's like,
That's fantastic.
"Yeah, there's that one freaking the time where him and Mark trained with a grandmaster out. So I was training in Taekwondo at the time, and my dad would always like to come and see us perform and stuff. The other kids didn't like it so much because whenever he showed up, the teachers always made us do extra hard stuff. I could remember my dad walking in, and the kids were looking like, "Oh no, his dad's here," and they'll look at me. They'll be looking at me and be go, "Why's your dad here?" I don't know. You're young and he trying to come up with an excuse. And then one day the grandmaster came and they were talking and singing about doing some personal training. And my dad said, sure, and he decided to call up Mark to come down to train with him. And they go away. And I guess one of the things they did was chopping bricks with their hands because my dad, when he came home, he had like this slab of concrete that he was still working on. And I was like, what's that you got in your hand, Dad? The slab of concrete, Royce. I'm gonna practice chops on it. I was like, okay, cool. And sure enough, he eventually breaks it with his bare hands. My dad was so strong he could literally chop concrete in half. That's just how strong he was.
Wow.
Undertaker, on the other hand, not so much. According to him, he would try the same thing, but his hand would get so bloodied and bruised. It was just it was like unrecognizable by the time he was done, and apparently he just had surgery done on it too. So now he's got to go back and get reworked on. He's cussing out my dad. God damn it, Brian! I just got my hand fixed. What now? Freaking. He was so mad. I didn't even know about that until years later when me and my folks got to see him again for the first time in like what 10 years or something. And he would tell us that. And I go, damn, really? My dad put you up to that? And he's like, yeah. Yeah, he freaking made me just have to chop bricks with my hands. Like, dang. And no disrespect, but Mark's hands are not exactly, they're big and he's strong, but they're not like my dad's hands. My dad's hands were like freaking meaty as hell. They're like baseball mitt. That's how big his hands were. So
Yeah.
he can handle that shit, but Taker sure can't.
And your dad, of course, had such an iconic song as a babyface. His entrance music, created by Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South, and J.J. McGuire. Just a great theme song. And when that first note hit, the fans knew exactly who was coming through that curtain. And that was the case with a lot of the superstars back in the day, where I feel as now it's not so much the same yet. The music constantly changes on television and it's just not as iconic. What's your take on that? And what entrance music do you use to the ring?
So for me, I use this copyright-free song. I think it's called "Drag Me to Hell." I think it's by Dark Signal. Yeah, see, because me and the guys I know, we have to use non-copyright music because otherwise, it's gonna get either the video's gonna get taken down or it's gonna be a mute, while you're going out there. But comparing to like most music these days, it's based on the generation really because music nowadays it's got more a modern feel to it, whereas before like in the 90s it's something you would expect from something that you would see off MTV.
Yeah.
It's like it's just it's different really. I mean it's just how it was for each generation. Nothing much to say about that, but it's definitely a different vibe. Like you listen to like whose theme today is it? Like honestly, that's the thing. I can't even think of a modern wrestler's theme right now because it kind of all meshes together. Because you know what, you're right. A lot of themes today kind of sound too similar. It's
Yeah.
either too much heavy metal or too much rap or hip hop, whereas back then you could tell who's who because of their iconic themes. You got guys like Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Undertaker. His is always iconic, you know. Whereas today, it's like anyone could be coming out of that. It's like, yeah, today when the music blares, anyone can be coming out of that curtain, and so
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I guess, yeah, today's entrance themes is it's just, I don't know, it's probably a little too similar to the others. So, oh
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. It's too bad. And it makes us, loan for those times. But, Jimmy Hart and Jim Johnston just did a phenomenal job with the music back then. And it's, at least nice to look back on for sure. What advice do you have to an aspiring wrestler, somebody who wants to get into the business? What kind of advice do you have for that person?
My advice, well, that's a tricky question right there. Stay committed, because you never know if you're going to be the one to get the call by the big leagues or not. And but hmm, what else is there I can say? Okay, okay, yeah, just stay committed,
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing, and oh yeah, and networking I hear is important too. That's another thing that I kind of man, I've been so good with. I'm just it's most because I'm a shy guy, I have a hard time trying to reach out to most folks, it's just what it is,
Sure.
but yeah, just work out, stay strong, stay committed, and who knows, you might be the next guy to get the call from either WWE or AEW or even overseas, like New Japan. Although if you get that New Japan call, just you know, pray to God you survive their training. I hear they take that shit hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They do it all the way over there.
Like Jesus, you think training here is bad? I hear like grueling stories like over there. People that survive their dojos. Are almost considered heroes at this point. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. So like I say, stay committed. Network and yeah, that's all I can say, dude.
And do you have a favorite memory that stands out in your career so far that you've experienced?
A favorite memory. It's like, am I wrestling?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one right there because I've got like several good memories and stuff and several stories, but huh. All right. Uh, give me a second. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's just being on the road, hanging out with friends is the best memories. Really, just traveling along, telling stories and stuff. That's the best part. I can say being in the ring is also good. But I think my favorite part about this is just being able to travel and hanging out with the bros and stuff.
Yeah.
Sharing stories. Getting update on the latest, what's up, and that's probably my favorite part about this is being able to hang out with you know like-minded individuals.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, people ask, who are your top four of all time, or who are the greatest four of all time? But in this case, who are your personal favorite four of all time? And of course, your father could be on there as well. Up to you.
Okay, yeah. I guess that's gonna sound biased, but it's gonna be guys like him. There's him, Eddie Guerrero, because that was my favorite wrestler as a kid. Apart from my dad, of course. Those two, uh, Undertaker, or because he's also pretty iconic too. And damn, I'm trying to think of the fourth one right now. Man, I always gotta get the hard questions, man. I'm like, dang. These are hard ass questions you're asking me, man. Shit, I swear to God, you post this, I'm gonna get a shout out. I'm gonna get a shout out. Things like, why do you let that guy as your favorite? I'm sorry, but so yeah, so my dad, Eddie Guerrero, Undertaker, and you know what? Screw it, Shawn Michaels.
Awesome. Well, can't go wrong with HBK. That is for sure.
No, you really can't. Shoot, man, he was definitely he had the charisma, man. There's a reason why everyone favored him for so many years.
Yeah. How can fans follow you? Social media, or do you have a website or anything?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You know, I got Facebook. Just look me up. You know, Royce Adams. You'll see a picture of me looking, you know, a little stern. You know, like I probably should get it updated though. My hair was kind of short at the time. I should probably update because I got all this now. You know, and so there's that. You can also follow me on Instagram too, Royce dot Adams. I actually don't post too much on there. I'm more on Facebook these days. But even so, it's just you know it's I don't update too much of my stuff, honestly. It's just I do what I can, but it's just my hands are so busy these days. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's how you can follow me on Facebook and through Instagram. And I'm thinking about getting myself an X account too. So I might set up an X account too soon, you know, or you know, formerly Twitter. You get the idea. So we'll
Be
see
on the
where
look.
that goes.
All right. And in closing, how would you like your father to be remembered? What is his legacy in the world of professional wrestling?
Well, I mean, as much as I would like to, you know, like for him to be remembered as you know, an iconic wrestler and all that. But at the same time, it would be nice for him to be remembered, you know, as a person too. You know, like the memories that he made, you know, as as who he was. You know, like he was always, like I said, a nice dude, funny guy, bit of a pain in the ass too, depending on who you were. You could ask guys like Mark Calloway, he'll give you his honest response. He'd be like, "Damn it, I love him, but man, was he an asshole." So, you know, I just like for him to be remembered not just as a strong wrestler, but as a great dude too. You know? Hopefully, just by you know by living and stuff and doing what I'm doing, I'm making him proud. You know.
Without a doubt. Awesome. Well, stick with us for one moment. Thanks you so much for joining us this week. It's been an honor. For Royce Adams, I am Joseph Bruen. It's been the All Access Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.